I'm really happy to be here, and I promise you I'm going to contribute nothing to your advertising careers in this presentation. I'm absolutely going to give you no tactical advice on anything, and rather I'm just going to talk openly about something I'm kind of interested in. And I think I'm going to show a little work, just enough so you know I'm not bullshit, but then I'm going to go into things that inspire us and I think are a little bit of a forecast for where the greater conversation from this conference is, are maybe going to head. You know, I hate future predictions and things, but I just feel like this is the natural conversation we should be having. So anyway, Hush is a design agency based in New York that effectively means we use design as a tool. It could be in the hopes of advertising, it could be in the pursuit of spatial and architectural software, but it's design, design, design. So we're designers by trade, we're graphic designers, we're filmmakers, we're architects, environmental designers, software developers. Nothing matters technologically until it's proven out by a design ideology and way of thinking first. So that's really key for us. What we're known for now, as Tim kind of mentioned, is living in this space where the digital and the physical kind of pull each other and challenge each other or augment each other. And so in a way, we do a lot of this work, and I would say a lot of this work is exactly where the Internet of Things, or the Internet of Everything that you've been discussing for the past 2 days lives. It's physical wearables, it's spaces with sensors and inputs and outputs, and it's how those things talk to each other and recycle data and express data very in real time and very fluidly. So what I want to look at today is just this little niche idea about expressive environments. And I think the last presentation was, maybe showed it's not so niche sometimes. You can have expressive environments that are incredibly huge, but I think there's something really beautiful about this, and I want to explore it a little bit more. So I'm going to take you through like 4 or 5 projects real quick, just the elevator pitch. We build big things sometimes, not as big as what was just on screen, but big, immersive, sound, architectural, spatial, sensor-driven, content-heavy experiences, sound and light, like this for Nike. This is actually data. It's looking at runners on a track for the Olympic trials and bringing them into spaces. We do small-scale displays. That bring content, data, lighting, and structure together, so you feel data moving around the room. What is this? We do retail environments. We look at sort of like the DNA, sonic and visual signatures of products, like this for Nike, where it actually takes over the space and you actually feel that kind of we design structures like lighting structures that are actually built out of data. So for example, we took spoken words, translate them to digital files, put them in a database, translate them into typography, and then built them into a lighting sculpture. So these kind of ideas, where actually the room and the sentiments in the room and our discussions together actually become lighting of the actual space. So that's something we're in development on. Lighting sculptures designed and driven by data inputs in real time. Very expressive canvases around brands. This is for Acura, in which energy transmission in a car is actually translated to a table that you can actually move around on a flexible canvas in real time. Data visualizations of running in any city in 15 markets around the world, looking at all of Nike Plus running data as it overlays in real time over the maps. US Open and IBM looking at tennis data as it plays out in real time, so people look through the interface of graphics and motion and understand the game of tennis and the insights around that. And then lastly, expressive environments that are less data-driven and more sensor and input-driven and content-driven. This is Under Armour's first experiential retail space in Shanghai, which we launched last year. the idea. So our work ranges across a lot of things, but they always are about design across space, digital software, and content. And it has to be really beautiful. If it's not beautiful, we generally aren't that interested. So I want to talk about expressive environments and this Internet of Everything kind of idea. And I'm going to totally take it, I'm going to boomerang way out, and then I'm going to come back, and you're going to get why I'm doing this. But why am I at a digital conference and I'm going to talk about architectural history? I don't know. I like architecture. I think it's cool. I think architecture as a practice tends to kind of evoke the zeitgeist of a society, and I think over time you see the changes in architectural form driven by the same inputs that like the Internet of Everything is. It's technology advancements, it's information, it's materials, it's structure, it's artistry, and it kind of feels like a nice parallel. I could have done this with film, I could have done this with music, I could have done this with writing, literature, but I'm going to use architecture. So let's just look real quick at like early turn of the century buildings. Elevators invented, buildings get higher and higher, they sit in a smaller footprint. All of a sudden we have these skyscrapers popping up in Chicago, New York. Then what happens mid-century, we get this form and function thing, right? We got the European influence, we got, just looking at Mies van der Rohe, who's a pretty famous architect, right? 1929, all these forms are looking very perfect, functional, beautiful. There's a lot out there on the Boston skyline too. Glass and steel become everything, right? So everything is about perfect form, minimalist, not a whole lot of expression, but really simple and well done. So technology is allowing architects to build really, really utility and functional based architecture, okay? And so on, and so on. Something happens, okay? And it's convoluted, and there's different styles in Europe and all over the States and everything else, but something happens around mid-century, a little later, where architecture kind of breaks its functional bounds, and all of a sudden it becomes kind of expressive, right? It becomes like something else. There's things in there that aren't pure utilitarian. They're actually just about beauty and form and message. Looking at Le Corbusier, who is a French architect around the same time, he was designing very rigorous, rigid, frankly, like it looks like a housing project stuff under this ideological idea, okay? He had a very simplified idea. This is the construct of every kind of architectural space. Simple living, open structure, very simple transportation from floor to floor. And this is probably his most famous piece. Super simple, ribbon windows, structures revealed. There's not much to it, okay? Pure function. Raise things up, open air to where you need to be. Something happens with him, and I'm using this as a proxy. In 1952, he starts doing stuff like this, and this, and this, my favorite one. This is not function. This is crazy. This is 1954. You can't make this thing very easily. This is insane. So why is that happening? Look at this. It's a chapel. How amazing is this structure? After what he just was doing a decade earlier, right? Inside, it's beautiful. It's absolutely completely not functional at all in some ways. It's just beautiful. And so on and so forth. It's in India, World's Fair, or I think World's Fair or something, 1958. I mean, it's crazy. And then let's catapult just into the next decade, just looking at Gary. I mean, expressive architecture, impossible to build without new technology and materials, impossible. And we're here, Bilbao, LA, whatever. You get my point. Okay? And this is where I boomerang. I'm coming back, I swear. So, architecture. This is. If any of your like architecture professors out there, you're going to like kill me, and I'm doing a disservice to the practice actually, but I'm trying to simplify. So we get this kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden something starts to happen, and it looks like that, and then it starts to look like this, and on, and Zaha Hadid and Stephen Hall, all this stuff. Okay, let's look at some things. In my quick research, obviously I know what the Internet of Things are, but just if I'm like John Doe and I Google Internet of Things and I go to see what's out there. Irrigation systems, sleep thermostats, control your blinds, that's amazing. Controllers, smartphone, baby monitor, intelligent yoga mat, you gotta be kidding me, connectivity on your ring. Right. Okay, cool. Look, I'm all for this, okay? I got the stuff. I love utility. I have all the apps. I'm digging it. I track my own health. I'm there. I control my thermostat. But I'm here to argue, okay, that where we are in the Internet of Everything is here on our timeline, okay? And we have yet to experience what I hope to God is coming. I hope big data. I hope wearables. I hope monitoring my personal health, my home. I hope just the ecosystem of sensors and inputs that are 24/7 around us can be harnessed for like an inflection point towards some kind of expression. Okay? Because I don't think we're there yet. Just my cursory survey, 95% of the things I saw are pure function and utility. And that's great. It makes people a lot of money. We get to advertise stuff about it. There's true value in that. It makes me happier because I use all this stuff. But where is the same stuff I saw in architecture happening in this world? So we're approaching an inflection point. That's what I believe, and I hope we are. So I want to show you the people driving that and my heroes as an artist and a designer. And these are the people, as usual, artists harnessing data tech and looking at spaces to make them expressive, not utilitarian. This is the parallel path to the Internet of Everything that's going to massively crash into what we have now and generate things that we can do with wearables and big data that are just, I don't want to say just beautiful and art, but I want to say expressive and valuable, in the same way that Frank Gehry's buildings are valuable, and so on and so forth. So Roeji Ikeda, amazing Japanese artist, builds these incredible spaces that are data-driven, software-driven, tap into open APIs and data sets and give feedback loops, but ultimately are just expressive. Express amazing things at scale that make people do this. If you can make, as an advertiser, if you can make people do this, you won. So why aren't we dealing with this, right? So you get it. I was at a performance of his. It sounds like this. Real data sets, writing software, looking at imagery in real time, pulling from the web. I mean, it's not friendly. This isn't something that a brand is going to buy into necessarily, but it's using all the same tactics, inputs, and potential outputs as you would use and we use in our commercial work for major brands. But I love this image. You can do that. That's what everyone wakes up to do to your customer, right? It's like make someone feel that emotion. That's amazing. Raphael Lozano, Hammer. I'm sure you guys just bear with me if you know this stuff. You probably do. I'm just trying to build a case. Beautiful sensory spaces, expressive spaces that are based on inputs, sensor inputs, motion tracking, whatever. But the spaces actually move and change based on interaction. So it doesn't just have to be quote-unquote digital screens and outputs. They can be articulated physical forms, lighting, things that actually react to people being in them. How awesome is that for expressive spaces, for brands? I mean, we touched on it in the previous presentation a little bit, but imagine full stadiums, full retail spaces that actually respond to me walking in, not just by throwing content at me, but actually bending and moving in response to me. That's pretty powerful. He also did a piece called Sound Tunnel or Light Tunnel, I can't remember. It was Sound and Light, so pick one. That was in New York, really beautiful, in which you just record a little sentiment into this box, and it translates into a repeated sonic, like a ripple effect that goes down the entire tunnel in sound and light. Multiply that at scale, and you have just a tunnel of voices and expressions and emotions that ripple through this thing, like this. The sound's off, but it's fine. So so again, this is the same software, this is the same hardware, this is the same tools that we have as designers and advertisers, but we can use them for different means. So this is art, but we use this kind of stuff in our work to bring to life this kind of power of brand. And it's not necessarily art, it just moves people to do things. And then Leo VILLAREAL, obviously Bay Lights project, but getting there, he's done so many other things. Beautiful sound and data-driven spaces that just are alive, literally. They're alive with those kind of inputs. This is obviously this largest project. But imagine, I mean, come on. Talk about a data-driven, content-driven, expressive space the size of the Bay Bridge in San Francisco. I mean, that created that aligned a city around an emotion and an icon for the city. So I think it has a lot of power. So the last thing I want to show you is just a little project we did. It's a tiny project. It was an internal project. But I think when you start to look at how we harness data and inputs and sensors and content and what pops out of it, where we can pop out functional things, we can pop out expressive things, and we can pop out everything in between. So this project was called Releases, and it was just an expressive idea around inputting something sonic and outputting something visual. And essentially what we asked our team to do was make a wish, like a release, a cathartic release for the new year at the end of last year, right? Like say anything, just get it out. It could be a hopeful thing for 2014, or it could be a release of something, just get it away. And effectively we just wrote some software that would translate that waveform in real time into a beautiful visualization of your emotion. So it comes right from your mind and your gut, and in seconds through the software it's translated to something visually beautiful but true to an expression. So we made thousands of these and took inputs from friends, family, everyone, and then we built some really beautiful stuff. And they're all unique. There's never one that would ever be the same. It's like a digital fingerprint. And I imagine, in my dream for a brand, and in my work, I would love us to be able to get to a point where we can take crowd and community and audience and customer inputs like this and create, customized reactions to them and kind of treat them as individuals in that way. And so we did everything. We did prints and other stuff, which I'll show you. So just watch this 1 minute.
Adventurous.
Graceful.
Anxieties.
Subtraction. Banana. Wonderful.
Awakening.
Yes!
Mama.
So what's cool is once you have something emotional translated into digital, the outputs are infinite. You physically made a 3D object in digital space the minute you set anything into that software. And then you can 3D print it, you can build it, building blocks, you can print it like a traditional poster. So what happens is, imagine a world where like this software and these environments are ubiquitous, real time, no latency. I get my 5-year-old and like 20 of his friends in a room, and they literally like go crazy, and then we print the crazy that they said, and that crazy physically becomes like the structure and mold and building blocks around them, right? Kids play with building blocks all day and Legos. Why not print your own based on your own heart and things you said? That's the vision of awesome. That's where we can go with this stuff, with all this system of inputs and outputs. So before you're done, we're going to do this together right now. Here's the software. You guys got to give it your all. Okay? Got to be really loud. Okay? All we're going to do is we're going to say whatever you guys felt about this conference for the last 2 days. You're going to shout it out, in short, don't give me a whole soliloquy. Give me something like 1 or 2 words, okay? Because the shorter it is, the cooler it'll be. Okay, we're going to try it. Ready? I'm going to count down, and we're going to yell it out. Yeah, because the mic's over here. My mic's over here, okay? 1, 2, 3. There you go. That's it. Sweet. So I'm wrapping up. If you give me your card, I'll send you the high-res version of that. I can even send you the OBJ file if you're a nerd and want that print your own thing. But anyway, I just to wrap up, I really just think in all of this stuff that we're talking about for the last 2 days, I'm not knocking anything. I'm just saying, talking about this inflection point, like we're at the nascent stages of this Internet of Everything. Like we're just building the functional baseline and infrastructure on data scale and sensors and mobility that will allow us to do a lot of things. And we can build amazing, very functional places to live in skyscrapers, but at some point, the influences from outside of our utilitarian world are going to influence what's the next step. And what we're going to make with this stuff, hopefully, goes in the direction of spaces that feel human and emotional and create memories, which are all the things that, by the way, you have to do in advertising. So let's get there fast. Cool? Thanks. I'll take questions. I know we got to go, but I can take them live or I can take them after or whatever. Cool. Shoot. Someone. Oh, God. It's like, which child of mine do I like better? I can give you the political answer in case any clients are in the room or something. No, we've done. I think we've done a couple of seminal projects in our 8 years of being alive as a company. We did a great Nike project, which we referenced as sort of like our AC/DC Back in Black album. It was just nice because it wasn't just the output, it was the process of getting there. I mean, Nike has a high bar, and when you get the right client there and you get the right momentum, and it was a confluence of the Olympics and Nike Fuel Band and Nike Plus 2.0 and all these rad Flyknit technologies. I mean, it was like all forces coming together, but they really were dead focused on just this idea of fast and speed. That was the brief. And what was great as a designer, we took something as simple as a concept around fast and speed, and we just sliced it. We actually started with sound design and data viz, and then we started with architectural structures, and then we started in the end with like content and animation and things like that. So it was a combination of energy, intensity, right client and creative director on Nike's side, and a simple brief, simple brief. Don't oversell it, just simple. I can show you another time what that was. And then, we've done some other ones that are similarly interesting for different reasons, I think. But, sometimes you get a nice balance where you feel like you're really just like, you don't know where one thing starts and one thing ends. And as a designer, that's liberating. You're like, oh, I don't have to be the graphic designer today. I don't have to be the software guy today. It's like, everything matters, No, we have 4 architects on staff. They're not. They're engineers as far as much as you need to go through architecture school and get a degree. We can't do drawings, but we can sign those off to someone. So we'll bring at a certain scale, retail scale, larger scale. That's not temporary. We'll get an AOR on board to take our rough designs into build phase. For smaller scale stuff, the handoff between us and a fabricator is very simple because the fabricators do engineering drawings based on our rough files. So they'll do down to the screw eyelets and things that, frankly, I could care less about. Just make it happen as long as it holds up, But sitting those people next to a software developer and a filmmaker, that's the entirety of our company. Is that kind of thing. No silos, let's give it to the physical guys, let's give it to the animator. It's not like that at all. It's like, let's see what craziness happens when those minds kind of start tugging on an idea and seeing what can happen. Yeah.
You talked a lot about architecture and the Internet of Everything. Can you talk about merging the two?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the undertone of where I think we're going, right? So like I was showing architecture as a history of building things in the world, but I think when you look at some of those artists that I showed at the end, when you look at some of the work we're trying to do, some of the other work presented here, you realize that like architecture is no longer just bricks and concrete. Architecture is might as well be lighting, and lighting is driven by sensors, and sensors can be programmed to harness data, and data can drive form and things like that. So architecture no longer is a static medium. It's quite dynamic and quite connected to Internet of Things. I mean, if you have a wearable on your wrist that's taking your geo and gyro data and all this other body temperatures and haptic inputs, like that's just a little wristband, right? But it's a physical thing that has data capture inside of it. So scale that up. I can make a room like that. I can make a room like that. I can make 10 rooms like that. If I can make 10 rooms like that, I can make a building like that. So just with that flexibility of thought, you know where we're going very quickly. Yeah. We've designed retail spaces from the ground up. So within an existing building, interiors. I mean, that's interesting to me. That's probably the next thing, you know. Even doing just the retail spaces within an existing structure of a mall or something, it's. I mean, we learned a ton, you know. Some of the not so fun stuff that has to come into designing the fun stuff, and the big thing, obviously, you're well aware and well know, but you know, the difference between ephemeral and permanent work like this is massive. You have to build a completely different process and design process and systems processes and fail-safes for the permanent than you do for the temporary. I mean, the temporary you can stand back there with, you know, duct tape and a PA holding a cable together. But so we're learning that more, you know. But I think that'd be cool at some point.